Welcome back, baseball fans. 1974-77 carryover league, and this is the first card set analysis, a feature we do on the Thursday night broadcast. This is a look at the 1974 card set of what's not in the league. And by not in the league, meaning that there are 6 players on the 32 teams in the league, which is 192. Normally you get about 580 cards. So this is the balance of those, and they have been sorted for players who are in our league in a different year, and the keepers designated on the Tuesday series thus far. Plus, you also have players undrafted, haven't been in the league mostly because of ineffectiveness. Plus, you also have guys who have been put on waivers and put on the retirement list. So there's a wide variety of possibilities here. But tonight, in the first part of the 1974 box, and this is going to be probably the closest to the continuity for the keepers, but not that interesting for futures players like rookies and so forth. So we expect to see a lot of keepers in this broadcast. We're going to look at the American League East and the American League North tonight. Begin with the American League East, and it's with Baltimore. Most likely, all 4 of the keepers will be present here. And indeed they are. Al Bunbury, Lee May, Ken Singleton, Grant Jackson. Now, only 2 players can be kept in any individual year. Probably won't be this version of Bunbury. He really slumped after the brilliant 73. Lost 100 points in batting average. But then he figured it out in 75 and 77. He had some nice years. Another Lee May year in Houston. And he still packs a wallop in the Dome. 24 homers in the Houston Astrodome. And he gets the Baltimore in 75. He still hits the home runs, but it's just not that fantastic in Baltimore. So they could go with a Lee May card here. Ken Singleton. This is another year in Montreal. And this is an interesting thought, that he was so fantastic in 73. 300 with 100 walks. He had a little down year in 74, so maybe the Expos thought, well, we can get rid of him, and plus his defense wasn't very good. But Baltimore saw the upside and said, we'll send you Dave McNally, and that was the big trade of the, for the Oriole franchise. This is an okay card because of the walks, but he's got nice years in 75 and 77 as well. And the last of the keepers, and this might be the one they take, is Grant Jackson. Grant had a 1.90 ERA in 73, excuse me. In 74, he's still outstanding. Not quite as dominant. He actually was ordinary against lefties and dominated righties. Here, he gives up some long balls to righties, but he still doesn't put a lot of men on base. Very similar performance, relief 2. And then after that, we have the players who already have strat cards in other years. Palmer, Belanger, and Garland, and they're not going to move out of those cards. They're pretty good ones. I've done some analysis of the carry-on guys, and for all the teams in the league, guys with different cards. It doesn't look like you would go back into time to pick a player. You go forward in a time, but not necessarily back into time. Makes sense. If you go back in time, you made a mistake. You should have taken that all along. So with that, we'll go to the next team, and it's going to be the Red Sox coming up. The Red Sox 4 keepers. Okay, they made some moves in the offseason. It's going to be Yastrzemski, Bill Lee, Randy Moffett, who they got in a trade, and Roger Moret. They also added Mike Cosgrove to the bullpen. The guys, Cooper's in a better year in the future. Fisk this is a shame. This is a great Fisk card. but he hits 332 in 1975. So that's why that card is in play. But this would also be a great card. And Rick Wise is only a starter 5 there, so they don't want that. Would this Yaz be in play? Absolutely. Absolutely. This could be another, they could go year to year with Yaz all the way throughout the decade. 301, 104 walks. He's a 1 in left, too, so it's funny. They actually traded Rick Miller in the offseason. Doesn't matter. They could still go with all 1s in the outfield, joining Fred Lynn and Dwight Evans. Have Cooper play first. So that's pretty versatile. Bill Lee, 74. He was an all-star in 73. Still in the rotation. That's a fine card. Probably all 4 of the years are going to look pretty good for him. About finding the best one. Now, what I'm not crazy about is how the righties nick him for the homers and the hits. But we'll see. We'll see. Moffat's got a really nice year, I believe, in 76. This would also be okay to be a setup guy in the bullpen. 450 ERA is kind of high. So probably in one of his future years. And Roger Moret actually has a losing record in 74. So with that, we're thinking it might be, Yaz, Yastrzemski, and Bill Lee. Could be the 2 of the 4 they take. And again, if we don't see it obvious here, there can be free agents they look at, the waiver wire, or guys who haven't been in the league yet. Next up, the Yankees. They were very active in the offseason. They made deals for Bonds, Piniella, and Rivers. So Bonds, Munson, McDaniel, and Medich are the 4 keepers. They have Chambliss and Stanley and Tidrow, Nettles, and Rivers in futures years. Probably won't go back into time. So the Giants and the Yankees made this trade a year ahead of time. You see, he still got Giant stats. So, but you could see why the Giants might want to move on from him, because he really came down from the 38 home runs and a 300 hitter with 100 walks. He's still AA stealer and a 1-4 in right field. I think the Yankees really should think about just going with this card. The San Francisco year 1. Number 1, it expires at the end of the season, so they could trade him again as he gets traded throughout the decade. So you'd rather have the San Francisco stats than the Yankee stats, maybe. Munson, we believe 73, or his MVP year would probably be the best year of the decade. So this is still a nice card, but we can do better for Munson. I like this McDaniel card on the left side here. Homer 1, single 11, no walks. I don't mind him on the right side so much, even as a long reliever. 3.45 ERA, that'd be fine. And Medich is still pitching on 3 days rest, I believe. Yeah, 280 innings. And a 19-game winner. And a starter 8 innings eater. So, very productive look at the Yankees. Bonds, McDaniel, Medich. You got to decide which of those 3 cards they aren't going to use and move into a different year. Munson looks like he's safe in a future year, 75, 6, or 7. Your Blue Jays, always a fun off season for these guys. They're always making moves and getting productive players. So it's Bradford, Coggins, Sosa, and Clyde Wright. Interesting collection there. Kranepool, we got him hitting 300 already. Sutherland, they could move back into time for that. But frankly, it's a sideways movie. It's 260 in the other card. Burhoon, you could see, he's not that good in this particular year. Doyle Alexander as well. So the 4 players, Bradford, they will take in this card because of the destruction versus lefties. And frankly, the Blue Jays would like to have a scary hitter on their team. And that's pretty darn scary, at least against lefties. Unfortunately, these guys just don't provide a lot of value in a league that has at least 5 right-handed pitchers on an 8-man squad. So you don't face that many lefties. You generally face more lefties than lefties would face. Let me think if there's an everyday lefty here. We don't. But I mean, normally, it's like 25% is a nice approximation during the major leagues. And so in my league, it's up to 37% because 3 of the 8 are lefties. Though that doesn't mean they're going to match the same innings pitched in that same percentage, but just the number of pitchers on the team. So they're going to take this Bradford on the left side, and I think they're going to take this Coggins on the right side because this is really the end of Coggins' career. Give him power. He's an ace stealer. He's a 16. He draws some walks. He can be a 3 in center field. He's only a 240-something hitter, yeah. But he's good enough to work in the platoon with Bradford, frankly. The two could work as a nice pair there, Coggins and Bradford. Good news is in the future for Elias Sosa. He's got a dominant card coming up in the later 70s and I think into the early 80s. So even though this is a nice card, they don't necessarily need it. And Clyde Wright's got 2 years left, and believe it or not, 75 is better than 74. Again, he's a 20-game loser with a 4.42 ERA and 232 innings. What happens is in 75, I think his innings drop, but he's more effective. And that is not surprising. A lot of times when guys eat a lot of innings, they start to wear down as those innings pile up and they become not as effective. So sometimes less is more. So again, the Blue Jays are a team that has always kind of been near 500 and doing a really good job with the expansion process. All right, we'll take a break, and then we'll get back to the American League North. All right, now in the North, we begin with the Expos. Expos just missed the playoffs a year ago and are slowly building a team that becomes a powerhouse by the late 70s, early 80s. And they just have the 4 keepers. None of the guys on their team have a card in the past that has any value, but it's Bob Bailey, Willie Davis, Ron Fairley, and Steve Rogers. So Bailey has just been the star offense with his homers and walks and hits, and he's still doing it. You know, all throughout the 70s, you know, Bob Bailey really flew under the radar with how productive a hitter he was. 100 walks again, 280 average. You know, he's had better years, but frankly, that's a heck of a year. Bob Bailey. And again, you could use him as a DH in our league. He's in the American League anyway now. Third base, left field. They made a trade to get Willie Davis from the Dodgers. Didn't have to give up much to get him. He's not a 1 anymore. It's only 1 year in with the Expos, but he hits really well against righties. Of course, great base stealer, base runner. Not so great against lefties. That's probably a good thing. I mean, you could even work him into platoon if you are concerned with that, but he's a full-time player, 295 average. You just, you know, put him up in a lineup against righties and move him down against lefties. Would probably be the solution there. Ron Fairley's got some nice years. Still here. He's getting up there in age, but he's still got some nice years. He's going to move to the Cardinals and hit 300 in the future. Here he's still an Expo hitting 245 in a part-time role, but a ton of walks and home runs. They don't need him to play first base because they have Mike Jorgensen. And Steve Rogers, after that brilliant 1973, well, again, we talked about less is more. So when they brought him up, he only threw 134 innings with a sub-2 ERA. Now they give him all these innings in year 2, and you see, not very effective. But by 1977, he would be one of the best pitchers in baseball. And that's a 4-year deal to get the 77 card. So we're going to ignore this one. Which means of this, Willie Davis looks like a lock, and possibly Bob Bailey or someone else. Next up, Cleveland. With Cleveland, it's Buddy Bell, Ray Fosse, Tom Hilgendorf, and Fritz Peterson. Buddy Bell has been getting 1-year contracts since 72, so they could bump him up to 74. But I think by this time, once we get to the latter part of the 70s, the average is going to climb near 300. So they might want to think of a 77 Buddy Bell. Him being a 2 would get him drafted simply for that, and full-time power, and double-digit home runs. No, just 7. Well, he doesn't have double-digit home runs. That's something to think about. Ray Fosse here, he's got a good throwing arm, but he's got a 300 season coming up, believe it or not. Yeah, you don't want this card. Even though he's got a -2 arm, that's nice. You would prefer that high batting average for him. Hilgendorf had moved, I believe. No, he's still with Cleveland. Lefty in the bullpen. He's got a better year in the future when he moves to Philadelphia, but Cleveland could snipe that card. Even this card is effective as a lefty who gets righties out, and this is harder to find. So he could work in a bullpen tandem. In other words, you have 2 lefties in your pen, and your other lefty obviously gets lefties out. So Hilgendorf gets the righties out. That's how he could work. He would need a partner, though. You don't want to have just him and have to figure out how you're going to get a left-handed batter out late in the game. Well, he ain't going to be able to do it. And Fritz Peterson still brings the juice. Here and in the next year, I think 75 it's even better. He's sort of like Clyde Wright. They both have years moving forward. 4.39 ERA and only a starter 5, so I don't think they'll use this card either. And then they have Duffy and Boog Powell cards in better years in the future. So from that list, possibly Hilgendorf, but I'm not sure. You know, they have to figure out which years they want to use for Fosse and Bell. Again, you could go to Fosse because he's got a -2 arm. That would be, and he would work in a platoon under that circumstance. 2 teams left, and then we'll call it an evening. It'll be the Detroit Tigers, who fell from grace a little bit. They finally tumbled. They finally got old in front of our eyes. It's going to be Kaline, Northrop Hiller, and Don Wilson, who they traded for in the offseason. They have a lot of futures here. Chalk and Stanley, Lamanchek, Lolich, and LaFleur. All better cards in the future. Interesting about Lolich, I guess he's got his 75 or 70. Yeah, that was a bad year. 4.15 ERA. That's why he's in a future card. This is the last year for Kaline. So now he's only a DH. It means you have to put Willie Horton in left field. However, you can get the value of a full-time DH here. You can play him every day. It's 262. Farewell tour. I mean, if a guy's last year is lousy, I haven't played cards like that. Harmon Killebrew, I didn't play his card. Willie Mays, didn't play his. Ernie Banks, I didn't play his final year. But I'll play this Kaline final year card. That's reasonably good. And even if, you know, a 262 hitting DH doesn't sound exciting, it's freaking out Kaline. So I just want him to play every day in his final year as a DH. Northrop still has some good corner defense, works good in a platoon. He's actually got a nice year in 75. It's a little bit better than this. This is a great Hiller card. 73 was probably the best John Hiller card with a 147 ERA. But look at the decisions in 150 innings. So, yeah, this is a no-brainer. You have to go back to this card in 74. And you got to take this guy in 74. This is the last year for Don. He would, tragically, he dies in the off-season. And before his 30th birthday, it was a really horrible bit of news for the Houston Astro franchise when they lost Don Wilson. But he's got a 307 ERA in his final year. So we know he will be there. So it looks like Kaline and Wilson and Hiller. So they might have to figure out a way of potentially moving one of these things, moving Wilson again. Or maybe they decide that they want a Hiller in a future year. Or maybe they elect at last second to not do Kaline because they've got... I mean, the point is if they can do better, Kaline's not going to play for anybody besides Detroit. So if they can do better, and that makes their team better, he would retire. They'd retire Kaline in that case. I don't like the, you know, a Hall of Famer like Frank Robinson moved around baseball at the end of his career. So I have him moving around baseball at the end of his career. So did Joe Morgan. So did Tom Seaver. You know, Jerry Koosman. Guys like that moved around. But when a Hall of Famer doesn't move around, I sort of do what Major League Baseball does. All right, lastly, the Ohio players. Surprise playoff team. Slowly getting better. Driesen, Carlos May, Bill Robinson, and Tom Hall. With futures of Hendricks, Demiri 75, and Blue 76. Okay. Driesen has a 300 year coming up, so they'll skip this year, even though it's decent. Could take this Carlos May in a platoon. This template, you always want to look for the 3 there, the 4 there, a hit there, and the 10 and the 9 and an 8. So he's got it all there for that card. And again, he's not as good against lefties as what you want, actually, with no power against lefties. 31% on that side. So that's going to make him look better against righties than the 249 hitter. Plus, this is also a full season for the White Sox, who, you know, moved on from him already. So they could bring him back in this year. I think he'll play all the way to 77, so he has some futures to consider. Bill Robinson, this is not a good year for him either. He's better in the future, just a 236 card here. And Tom Hall, this one's kind of tricky. He's got a 4.08 ERA, but he throws the ball left-handed, and all left-handers get looked at. And you don't want to be without left-handed pitching in our league. So first thing, can you get lefties out? And the answer is, well, I like that single on 9 there, 11. A 4 double and a double 1 of 3 is pretty good too. Of course, the walks aren't good, but I'm living to live with that over there. I don't like that at all over here. Of course, the homers. So he's a situational lefty, much in the same way Hilgendorf was a situational lefty. He would work better with another left-handed pitcher that they don't mind pitching against righties. But it could very well be that they move to a different year for him as well. And that's it for the Ohio players. And that's it for 8 teams. When we pick it up next Thursday, we're going to look at the rest of the American League, the American League Midwest, and the American League West, and our card set analysis. So Tuesdays, we look at spreadsheets and data, and Thursday nights, we look at the actual cards. Thanks for checking out the off-season 1974-77 Carryover League. We'll see you next time.